Kıymetli basın mensupları,
Distinguished members of the press,
değerli arkadaşlar,
dear friends,
sizleri en kalbi
I would like to
duygularımla,
greet you all
saygıyla
with my most
selamlıyorum.
heartfelt emotions and with respect.
17. G20
We have
Liderler
just
Zirvesi'ndeki
concluded our
programımızı
program
Endonezya'da
within the framework
ev
of the
sahipliği
17th G20 Leaders Summit under the gracious hospitality of
dönem
Indonesia.
başkanlığı görevini başarıyla icra
I would
eden
like to congratulate
Endonezya'yı
Indonesia
tebrik
for
ediyorum.
having successfully executed term
Şahsıma,
presidency.
eşime
And I also would
ve
like to
heyetime
thank His Excellency
gösterdikleri kabul dolayısıyla
President Mr. Widodo first and everybody involved in the realization of this organization for showing a wonderful hospitality to not only myself but also my spouse and the entire delegation.
İstiklal Caddesi'nde pazar
I
günü
also would
meydana
like to
gelen
take this
terör
opportunity
saldırısı
to thank
sonrasında
all of our friends
doğrudan
who've sent their
telefon
condolences
ve
and wishes
mesaj
of recovery directly
taziye
via phone
ve
and
geçmiş olsun
message
dileklerini
after
ileten
the terrorist attack
tüm
that took place
dostlarımıza
on Istiklal
teşekkür
Street
ediyorum.
in Istanbul on Sunday.
İkisi çocuk, 6
This
sivil
vile attack,
hayatını kaybettiği
in which 6 civilians,
saldırı,
2 of whom were
terörün
children,
kanlı
lost their
ve çirkin
lives,
yüzünü
once again revealed
bir
the
kez
bloody
daha
and ugly
gözler
face
önüne
of terrorism.
sermiştir. DAEŞ'ten mücadele
Those who
bahanesi
support the
altında
terrorist organizations under the pretext of fighting
örgütüne
Daesh
destek verenler de
are unfortunately becoming
her damla
accomplices in every drop of blood that has been spilled. As the separatist terrorist organization is cornered in Syria and Iraq, it tries to hide its desperation with such treacherous acts. But whatever they do, no matter who they hide behind, terrorists will not be able to escape the bitter fate that awaits them. As a matter of fact, our security units caught the terrorists who is the perpetrator of this treacherous attack and her collaborators as well in a very short time. I would like to underline once again that there is no place for any form of terrorism in the future of our country and our region. We will continue to resolutely implement our strategy of eliminating the terrorist threat at its very source. Once again, I call upon all of our friends to sincerely support us in our fight against terrorism. And I call upon Allah's mercy on our citizens who've died in this terrorist attack. And I would like to extend my condolences to their families and our nation and wish an expeditious recovery to the injured individuals. Dear friends, the theme of the G20 this year was Recover Together, Recover Stronger. And in this context, ministerial level meetings and numerous technical activities were held throughout the year. Turkey actively participated in these meetings and contributed to the summit agenda by sharing our views. And within the scope of the summit, we evaluated the latest developments regarding the global political and economic outlook. Our world has been going through a painful process that started with a pandemic for the last 3 years and became even more complicated as a result of hot conflicts and regional tensions. We still feel the negative ramifications of the strict measures that were taken during the pandemic on the supply chains and the functioning of international trade. And in particular, the extremely high energy, food, and raw material prices seem to be pushing all economies to the brink without any discrimination whatsoever. Inflation figures, which reached the peak of the last 5 or 6 decades in many regions, including Europe and America, reveal the magnitude of the problem that we are facing. And regardless of the level of development, no country has been successful in keeping itself out of this inflationary trend. We now see that the traditional formulas and one-size-fits-all methods have not yet produced the desired outcomes. And those who resort to these methods have begun to face the problem of even a higher rising inflation as well as unemployment. The growing recession debates about the global economy point out to the danger that awaits us in the near future. Reports of international organizations and some economic indicators show that if we can't find a way out, the current situation will become even worse. And of course, this crisis is not a crisis for certain regions, but it involves all the countries from the west to the east, from north to the south. However, fragile states in Africa and Asia were the ones that were hit the most. During the pandemic, some inhumane developments broke out during the pandemic, which is still repeated in the field of food and energy supply today. And millions of people face the threat of starvation and famine in a vast region stretching from Somalia to Yemen, from Sudan to Afghanistan. Likewise, the economic crisis has increased hate speech against immigrants of African and Asian origin, as well as Muslims in the Western countries. As a country with 7 million citizens living abroad, we know very well the frightening dimensions that hate speech can introduce. We believe that more sensitivity should be shown in the fight against Islam and xenophobia. Turkey is striving to do its part in the face of these challenges that affect the peace, tranquility, and welfare of the entire human race. Just as we were there for the needy by sending medical aid to a total of 161 countries and 12 international organizations during the pandemic period, today we are making sincere efforts in order to establish peace, prosperity, and justice with all of our might and with all of our commitment. We are the country that provides the most humanitarian aid in the world by our national income. We have been hosting nearly 5 million displaced people for many years. With our aid organizations, we come to the rescue of those who are in dire need. We are the country that works the hardest to end the conflicts and stop the bloodshed, especially in our region. And since the first day of the conflict in Ukraine, we have acted responsibly with the thought that there will be no winners in a war and no losers in a just peace. With this understanding, we have made many facilitating and mediating initiatives involving all the parties. And we have succeeded in bringing all the parties together around the same table many times. Together with Russia, Ukraine, and the United Nations, we have built a grain corridor in the Black Sea region. So in this way, we have made a great contribution to the settlement of the food crisis. So far, we have ensured that approximately 11 million tons of grain entered the world market. We continue our activities for the uninterrupted operation of our agreement and also in order for the transportation of grain to countries that need it most would be sustained, especially in Africa. Dear friends, in 2015, we have exercised our G20 term presidency, and that was the time when we dealt with food security.
Ortak bildirimizde gıda israfının azaltılması noktasında taahhütte bulunmuştuk.
In our joint statement, we made a commitment to reduce food waste. However, around the world, 1 billion tons of foodstuffs are being wasted every year. While talking about digitalization and artificial intelligence, we are also facing the fact that 2 billion people around the world live in poverty. If nearly 1 billion people go to bed hungry at night, we still observe scenes of luxury and excess and waste, which points out to a fact that there's an outstanding problem that we need to solve. It's not possible for the existing economic architecture, which is built upon ambition, domination, and gaining more, to protect people and nature. As Turkey, we continue spending tremendous efforts in order to change this unfair landscape and to prevent food waste. In addition to that, we have realized a zero waste project led by my spouse, Ms. Emine Erdogan, to the international arena. We believe that this important project will not only prevent environmental pollution, but also reduce waste, which has become a global problem. Another significant agenda of our summit was the subject of health. And in this context, we have exchanged our views on improving the global health system. And I once again told our interlocutors about the international solidarity that Turkey has demonstrated during the pandemic, especially in the African continent. Here, I had the opportunity to share the distance Turkey has covered in the health infrastructure, especially in the last 20 years, and the solutions that we have developed in order to settle the problems once and for all. I believe that we, as Turkey, have written a really great success story in terms of healthcare services. We have a voice on a global scale with our total number of hospital beds, which we have increased up to 264,000, and with our healthcare professionals, the number of which has reached 1,350,000. With our nationally developed Turcovac vaccine, we have become one of the 9 countries in the world that can produce a COVID-19 vaccine. We supply 89 out of every 100 medicines consumed by our citizens through our domestic production. City hospitals, which were built with a model of public-private partnership, initiated a new era in the field of health. Especially during the critical days of the epidemic, we have seen great benefits of these modern facilities, which are huge health complexes. Now, with the Health Turkey move, we want to make our country a brand in the field of international healthcare services. We have extensive infrastructure, significant trained human resources, and we are determined to continuously improve science, technology, and our production capability. And we are committed to pursue these goals. And at the summit, we have also discussed several items under the title of digital transformation. And we evaluated the opportunities and threats for the development of digital economy even further. During the 2-day summit, I also held many bilateral meetings, within which we've had the opportunity to get together with our host, President of Indonesia, Mr. Joko Widodo, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, President of the United States, Joe Biden, President of France, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. We also got together with Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Olaf Scholz. And on the occasion of the summit, we also took a family photo as leaders of MICTA, and we have published a joint statement within the scope of our term presidency. We have emphasized global health, food security, and effective migration management as our priorities for the presidency. The G20 platform is successfully carrying out its leadership role in the face of the challenges we face at the global level today. And I believe that we will overcome the economic challenges we are facing today, and with the determined effective and solution-oriented approach of the G20, we will be able to surmount these difficulties. In this respect, I hope that the consultations and the pledges that we have stated during the last 2 days will yield beneficial results for global political and economic stability. And I also would like to express my gratitude to the Indonesian presidency again and wish success to the next term president, India. Once again, I would like to greet you all with love and respect, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am a Kurdish journalist based in Washington, D.C., and my question is about the meeting that you had with President Biden. Was the F-16 program, did that come up? What is the latest that you can tell us on the F-16? And do you think a Republican Congress will help in terms of the Turkish ambitions in the F-16 program? And then one more question. There are many that believe Turkey is practicing a very aggressive policy in Aegean, in Syria, in Iraqi Kurdistan, where civilians have been killed because of Turkish bombing. Is there any time we see a shift in that policy, especially after the election, perhaps? Thank you.
Öncelikle F-16 konusunda
First of all, on the
Sayın
F-16
Biden
project,
olumlu
Mr. Biden
gelişmelerin
has
olduğunu
shared
söyledi.
positive developments
Cumhuriyetçilerle
lately.
Daha önce New York'ta yaptığım
I had
görüşmelerde de
previously meetings with
Cumhuriyetçilerin
Republicans in New York
konuya
in September, and
olumlu
the
yaklaştığını,
Republicans' approach is
özellikle
now positive,
orada
and
kendilerinden dinledim.
this was especially stated to
Amerika'da
me in
yaşayan
New
bir
York.
Türk olduğunuzu
And
söylediniz.
you have said that you are a
Buna
Turkish
pek
person
inanmıyorum.
living
Farklı
in
bir
the US. I don't
herhalde
really
ırkçılığın
believe that.
içindesiniz.
Maybe
Çünkü
you are
sorduğunuz
in
soru
a different sort of
bunu
racism,
aynen ortaya
because
koyuyor.
your question
Bizim
is a
Kuzey
manifestation
Irak'ta
of this racism
veyahut da
in
Suriye'nin
northern
güneyinde
Iraq or
oradaki
in southern
Kürtlerle
Syria.
ilgili herhangi bir sorunumuz yok.
We have no
Türkiye'deki
specific
Kürt
problem
vatandaşlarımızla
regarding
bu
the
tür bir
Kurdish
sorunumuz olmadığı
populations,
gibi.
as well as we have no problems
Teşekkür
regarding the Kurdish people living in our country. Thank you.
Adnan Can Atay Türkmen El Arabi TV Türkiye temsilcisi. Sayın Cumhurbaşkanım, İstanbul'daki terör saldırısından
Adnan Can, Turkmen TV.
sınır ötesi bir operasyon gündemimize geldi mi ya da gelecek
Are
mi?
you
Teşekkür
thinking
ederim.
about a cross-border operation
Şu anda
in the near future?
sorgulamalar, soruşturmalar
We are
devam ediyor.
currently
Ve
working
bildiğiniz gibi
on
81
investigations. As you know, there are
Şu anda bu
81
sayısı
persons who are injured.
yerleri
Now,
temizlendi.
many of them have been treated. 25 of them are still hospitalized. We had 6 fatalities, and of course, following the investigations, we'll see the ramifications and we'll do the investigations. And following those investigations, of course, we will do what is necessary, and everyone should know in the world that we are determined to do what is required from us.
Thank you, Mr. President. Melinda Nusafora from TRT World. Have you had any discussions with your Russian counterparts with regards to the extension of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which expires on Saturday the 19th? And if you do believe it is going to be renewed, can we expect to see the deal expanded?
Tabii görüşmelerimiz sürekli devam ediyor.
We have ongoing
şu an
discussions.
itibariyle
And
devam
as for
edeceği
now,
kanaatindeyim. Herhangi bir
I
sıkıntı
am
burada yok.
in the opinion that
döner
this will
dönmez
continue.
yine
There is no problem
Başta Sayın
regarding this.
Putin
Of
olmak
course,
üzere görüşmelerimizi
when I'm back,
devam
I'm going
ettireceğiz.
to be talking to
Çünkü
Mr. Putin and
Barışın
the
yolu
other interlocutors, because the
diyalogtan
way to the peace
geçer.
goes through
Ve biz bu
dialogue.
konuda
And
bir defa
we
özellikle
are
kararlı
especially
olduğumuzu hep
committed
söyledik.
to
Söylemeye
this,
devam
and
ediyoruz.
we are going to continue to
bu sürecin
insist on the importance
devam
of
etmesi
dialogue, and it's
zaten
important for
tüm
this
dünya
process
için
to continue for the whole
geçerli olan bir
world.
şeydir. ve daha önce de Sayın Putin'le yaptığım
And
görüşmelerde
previously,
bunun ışıklarını
during the
gördüm.
talks with Mr. Putin, he also gave me some green lights on the renewal of this agreement.
Betül Usta Sabah gazetesi,
Betül
Sayın
Usta
Cumhurbaşkanım
Sabah
geçtiğimiz günlerde
newspaper.
sizin de katılımınız Özbekistan'da
You have
bir zirve
participated
gerçekleşti,
to
Türk
the
Devlet
Uzbekistan
Teşkilatları
Summit
Zirvesi
with
ve
the
burada
Turkic
önemli bir karar
states,
çıktı.
and an important decision was
KKTC
taken
gözlemci
for
üye
the
olarak
Northern
teşkilata
Republic
kabul
of
edildi. Bunun
Turkish
ardından
Republic of
Yunanistan
Cyprus that was
soluğu
admitted as
tabii
an observer, and right after
Brüksel'de
that, of
aldı ve
course,
Avrupa Birliği'nden de
Greece
karara
invoked
bir
the
kınama mesajı
EU,
geldi.
which
Geçtiğimiz
then
saatlerde de
published a
ABD
condemnation
Dışişleri'nden bir açıklama
message,
geldi
and
ve üzüntü
recently
duyduklarını,
the
kararı
US
reddettiklerini
Department of
söylediler.
State
Görüşmelerinizde,
also declared that they
temaslarınızda
do
bu
not
konu
recognize
gündeme
this
geldi mi
decision.
efendim?
Have you
Ayrıca bu konuda
tackled this
değerlendirmeniz
issue
neler
during
olur?
your
Ne olur?
talks here,
İkinci
and
olarak
what
da
is
şunu
your
sormak
take on
istiyorum.
this?
Burada Fransa
Secondly,
Cumhurbaşkanı
you
Emmanuel
have met
Macron ve
with the
İtalya
French
Başbakanı
President Emmanuel
Meloni ile görüşmeleriniz oldu. Türkiye'nin İtalya ve Fransa ile ortak yürütme niyetinde olduğu bir SAMP projemiz
There
var.
is a
Bu konu gündeme geldi mi?
SAMPT
Yakın vadede bir
project
somut
with
adım
both
beklentiniz var
France
mı?
and
Teşekkür ediyorum.
Italy. Are there any
Teşekkür
developments?
Ancak
Thank you.
Kuzey Kıbrıs'la ilgili
Regarding the Turkish Republic of Northern
Türk
Cyprus,
Devletleri Teşkilatı'nda
the Organization
aldığımız
of
karar
Turkic States
geçerlidir.
has
Ve bu
taken
kararla
a
ilgili
valid
herhangi bir
decision,
yerden,
and
herhangi bir ülkeden
any opposition
icazet
or
almamıza da
condemnation
gerek yoktur.
message is
Bu iş
for us to be disregarded. We don't need any consultation or approval from any other third states. Of course, the states that have shown
devam ederiz.
negative approaches
Ve
will
diğer
be given
SAMP ile ilgili
the
konuda
answer
da
that
şu an
is
itibariyle
required.
bazı
On the
teknik-
SAMPT project, there are currently technical difficulties,
bu teknik engelleri de
and once
aşarak
we surmount these
gerek
technical
Sayın Macron,
difficulties,
gerekse Meloni'yle yaptığımız görüşmede
we
bunları
will
da aşacağımız
continue, because this is what we said during our talks with Emmanuel Macron and Giorgia Meloni.
Elif Saatçı, A Haber.
Elif Saatçu, A Haber News Agency. On the F-16 project, you have given the message that there's a positive approach, but there are also cuts of sanctions. Are there any obstacles to this F-16 project? Have you talked about this with Mr. Biden?
olumlu.
Currently, the developments are positive. There's no need to go into further details. And during the talk with Mr. Biden, yes, I have sensed this positive climate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Journalist from Russian TASS news agency. What's the current Turkey stand on the incident on Poland-Ukrainian border? And have you chance to discuss this matter with the NATO allies? Thank you.
Bu konuyla ilgili olarak
On this
ben
matter,
Rusya'nın yaptığı açıklamaya doğrusu
I
saygı duymak durumundayım.
need to respect the declaration made by
Rusya'nın
Russia.
alakası yok.
Russia has stated that this incident has nothing to do with them, and this
Bütün
declaration is important for us. Besides this,
Olaf Scholz'la da yaptığımız şeyde
this morning when I met with the German Chancellor, Mr. Scholz, we have also
kararı vermemiz
agreed that further investigation is needed. It won't be correct to take accelerated decisions,
bizimle
and
alakası yok. Ve Biden'ın da
Russia denies any involvement, and the American president has also stated that these missiles are not Russian-made, and I think this also shows that this has nothing to do with Russia. Maybe this is a technical mistake, or any other explanation will be found further investigations.
şöyle biraz da arka tarafa gidelim.
Maybe we can go to the back of the hall.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Efendim, evvela hoş geldin.
Welcome, first of all. Welcome.
Yes.
First of all, my condolence for the bomb incident that occurred in Istanbul, Efendim. How is the condition of your country now and after that incident, I mean? And talking about cooperation between Turkey and Indonesia, how does Indonesian government help Turkey in recovering after the bomb incident in Istanbul? Thank you. Teşekkür ederim.
Şu an itibariyle
As of
aldığımız
now,
taziyeler
we have received many condolences messages from Indonesia, and these are, of course, very important for us. This is a display of sensitivity, and we are grateful for this sensitivity. But I would like everyone to know that the bombing that occurred on Istiklal Street was followed by a return to a normal atmosphere in Istanbul and in the rest of the country. We are a country that is fighting terrorism for the past 40 years, and this fight against terrorism has been quite successful in our country. And we are going to continue with determination this fight against terrorism, and the Turkish people has also displayed patience, and the same is true for now. Of course, we call upon Allah's mercy for the 6 who died, and an expeditious recovery for those who are injured. And thank you very much once again for the sensitivity you have shown as an Indonesian individual. Microphone, please.
Hello, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Marie Finoshna, RT International. My question is also about a deadly missile incident in Poland. You just said that investigation needed, but before any probe, we heard that some NATO countries were very quick to point their fingers at Russia, while it is clear that such statements will definitely lead to escalation in the region. Why they are doing that? Understanding that it pushing the world to the World War III terms. Thank you so much. Teşekkür ederim.
As I have previously stated, this morning I have met with Mr. Olaf Scholz, and as 6 NATO member countries, they have been communicating, and following this communication, starting with the United States of America, there is a general impression that this missile is not Russian-made, and I think this declaration also paves the way to a certain fact, and I don't think we should insist that this missile has been launched from Russia. I think this would be a provocation, and therefore we want as fast as possible to convene Russia and Ukraine around the same table, and during these efforts, resorting to provocation is not right. And as I have just said, peace only can be established through dialogue, and we are trying to establish dialogue, and we want to establish peace in the whole world, and we are making efforts towards this direction, and as soon as I go back, I will be on the phone with Mr. Putin. Thank you very much. I think you still want to go on.
Thank you, Mr. President. Journalists from Phoenix TV, and are you going to have a meeting with China this time? And how would you describe the relationship between Turkey and China? And it is reported that Russia and the United States met in Turkey. Is it confirmed, and how would you describe this meeting? Thank you.
Sayın Putin'le yaptığımız görüşmelerimiz şu ana kadar
The talks we have had with Mr. Putin so far have been based on humane sensitivities, and we have been conducting these talks between Russia and Turkey, political, economic, and defense industry aspects already rely on a strong infrastructure, and this strong infrastructure has been preserved. We are two neighboring countries, and this neighboring relations will be preserved, and our talks will continue. As I said, peace can be established through dialogue only. On one hand, we're trying to convene Russia and Ukraine on the negotiation table. We are trying to convene them. We are also trying, we should not try to find out a third accomplice in this war. There is an Istanbul agreement, as you know, and in Antalya, the foreign ministers of Russia and Ukraine have also been able to meet. This was also a further step towards peace, and we are going to continue this path. Of course, war cannot yield any results. Only peace can yield positive results.
Mustafa Yıldırım, TRT Haber Televizyonu. Efendim,
Mustafa Yıldırım from TRT, and my question will be about Greece. Greece is releasing statements escalating the tensions in especially the Mediterranean and the Aegean region. You had previous statements where you said that you could just arrive any minute in time. And it was quite impactful for us to hear that. The military bases are being increased on the islands of Greece, and the Greeks are always escalating the tensions, and we can see the traces of the American support that they receive within brackets. Have you ever discussed any clear issues with regards to these developments with President Biden, whom you've spoken to yesterday? I would like to thank you. Such approaches of Greece and such a stance adopted by the Greeks point out to my words, which can be roughly translated as, we can come sometime, we can come anytime on one night. And I will never be able to move back from what I've already said. And I would like to say we might come any minute on one night. That's why there are 2 or 3 names in Greece who are constantly coming up with such statements and who never seem to know their place. And here we would like to call out to them. Neighbors, please know your place. Please do not engage in such actions with us. Turkey is here, you are there. Regardless of how much you fill up those islands, none of them will benefit you at the end. We have Turkey here. And so you should know your place, and you should know it well. Looking at history, if they were to examine the developments in history, I'm sure they will be able to see everything for what they are. The planes, the weapons, which are being dispatched, they won't matter. This is not an issue of arms, this is an issue of hearts. Okay? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Beatriz, I'm with the Spanish news wire EFE. You mentioned before that what happened in Poland was maybe a technical mistake. What is your evaluation of what happened there? What information can you share with us? Thank you.
Tabii bu konularda ben bir teknisyen,
I'm not a technician here, of course, in such matters. But during our bilateral discussions with Chancellor Olaf Scholz, I have heard that this was the information that they received, which I've respectively shared with you. I can see and I have heard that there was an approach towards a possible technical problem. And I think in a few days the dust will settle and we will be able to examine the missiles which fell on land. But it was clearly stated that these missiles are not Russian-made, and I think this is the point where we need to move forward from. It will be beneficial. Sabituna, TRT Arabia. His Excellency, one of the provisions of the grain agreement was the export of the Russian fertilizer without any restrictions, but there was not much distance covered in that regard. Was it a part of your discussions within the G20 agenda? And with President Macron and the bilateral meetings you have said, you've stated that EU needs to assume more responsibility in this regard in order to sustain this initiative. About the grain agreement, you stated that EU had to assume more responsibility. What would you say about that? What did you mean by that? Yes, thank you. About the grain export, I have shared with you the figures. It's exceeding 11 million tons. Fertilizers are very important, and ammonium is very important here. And the activities and initiatives are still underway regarding these commodities. And upon going back, I shall be having discussions with President Putin, and we will be able to talk about fertilizer and ammonium exports as well. And this initiative hopefully will be extended up to a year. And this is the area where we'll be spending more efforts. And this is what Istanbul Agreement stands for, and we are going to provide that. That's what I believe.
From France 24. This morning there was a meeting at Mr. Biden hotel with a lot of NATO countries. Why were you not there as a Turkey is a NATO country? And do we have to see any divide in the answer NATO countries and especially Turkey have on this case of the missile and generally on the Russia and Ukraine war? Is there any divide between the countries of NATO?
Konstantin, 6 ülke bir araya gelmiş.
Well, 6 countries got together, Constantine. 6 countries got together, Constantine. Why are you not asking me about the 20 other countries which were not there? I think they didn't have the opportunity to contact us at the moment, and it's not that important. They were just discussing the issues surrounding this missile. What make is it? And President Biden stated that it was not Russian-made, and that was the only answer that I gave. So it's not very important. We are always being invited to attend very important meetings, and we are not obliged to attend unimportant gatherings. Thank you. Well, I would like to thank you all, and may you all remain in health. Thank you.
Hadi öpüyorum seni. Ya bir de video isteyip duruyorum. Bir şey olmaz.